The subject is eternal states. You'll find this the most practical teaching in the world of Caesar. It may not make sense. I only ask you to accept it provisionally and try it, test it. I know that if you really test it, you'll prove it. We start on the premise that man is all imagination and God is man and exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. Blake and Berkeley, Lurkoon. Now, when we speak of eternal states, let me first define what I mean by states. A state is a body of beliefs. You sit quietly with yourself and ask yourself some very pertinent questions. Who am I? You may be wrong in the answer, but who am I? Where am I? What am I? All these questions you ask yourself form a body of beliefs. You don't see them, you believe in them, but you don't see what the mystic sees when you answer these questions. Paul said, "We do not look to the outer things, we look to things unseen, for the outer things are transient, the unseen things are eternal." If your eye is not opened, you do not see these personified beliefs of yours. They form a state and then completely control your behavior in this world. Any modification in a state will result in a modification in the circumstances of life. The slightest modification within your body of beliefs will result in a change in the outpicturing of your world. Everything is personified if you have the eyes to see it. Blake said, "Eternity exists and all things in eternity, independent of creation, which was an act of mercy. And by this, you will see that I do not consider either the just or the wicked to be in a supreme state, but to be every one of them states of the sleep which the soul may fall into in its deadly dreams of good and evil when it leaves paradise following the serpent." Viz. Last Judge 91-92. Now, he uses the word mercy only as one who sees the states ever uses it. Just imagine, eternity exists in all things, not a few things, but all things. You can't conceive of a situation, can't conceive of anything that does not already exist in eternity. He doesn't call that creation. Eternity exists and all things in eternity, independent of creation, which was an act of mercy. Now, before we go into this practical side tonight, let us show you what he meant by mercy. Here you seem so alive, all of you, and you go home tonight and expect to find the same place that you left when you came here. It all seems so real, and everything here is so alive. Everything is so alive. If you could come with me, I would show you that it isn't. You are the operant power, and you make it alive. Where man is not, nature is barren. It's dead. So when we say eternity exists and all things in eternity independent of creation, which was an act of mercy, he meant that everything that you see in this world is a part of the eternal structure of the universe. But it's dead, really dead. You come upon it, but you don't know that you're the operant power. And so you enter a state, and the state becomes animated, and you're lost in your own animation, and think it is independent of your perception of it. You look upon it, and you don't for one moment believe you are causing the animation that you are perceiving. Now, what does he mean by an act of mercy? Here you and I are embedded in this world of death, embedded in it. We are living souls, destined to be life-giving spirits, but until we are life-giving spirits, we are simply living souls. We animate what we perceive. He said, "Oh, miserable man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death?" Well, there's no power in the world that can deliver you or anyone in this world from this power of death, this body of death, but God. Here are the words of Peter, "Blessed be the God and Father of the Lord Jesus Christ. By his," now he's not speaking of Jesus Christ, he's speaking of God. "By his great mercy, we have been born anew to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead." 1 Pet 1:3. Now you read it, and without the mystic's vision of what is taking place, you're completely lost. What is he talking about? He speaks of by his great mercy. Only the act of mercy can do it. Well, what happens? You and I are embedded in this world of eternal death, animating dead forms, and believing them to be actually independent of our perception of them. Then, one moment in time, this great mercy awakens Jesus Christ within me. Were he not buried in me, he could not emerge from me. So, I carry in my body, said Paul, the death of Jesus, always carrying in my body the death of Jesus. 2 Cor 4:10. Here we are the coffins, the tombs in which he is buried, and God awakens in us as us, and that delivers us from this body of death. But until we are delivered from this body of death, you listen carefully to how to live in it and adjust to this body of death. It is a dead body. Before we go further, let me share with you now an experience of a friend who is here tonight. He said, I saw a semicircle of a dozen or more women. I would say they were all in their 70s. They were a pathetic sight. Here they were seated on these spindly wooden chairs, holes in their faded sweaters and skirts. To see this horrible picture of despair, then suddenly one rose, retired to the back, and instantly scenery came in, appropriate to what was about to take place. And here was this star of the past singing as no one today sings. And you realize why she is a legend, why this stardom was placed upon her. You never heard anything so great. Everything was perfect. When she was through, she returned to the chair. There she sat and returned to the holes in the sweater and the faded, horrible-looking drab apparel. One after the other rose, went back, and the appropriate scene. Those who danced, music came. Those who had to act, then the supporting cast came into view equal to the need, and everything was perfect. But one, the most pathetic of all, held my attention, and she seemed to be at the end. I looked at her, and she opened her purse. She knew she would find nothing in it. She opened the purse, not a coin, not a penny, this cheap little a 5 and 10 cent store purse. She opened a compact, no lipstick, and it was all chipped. The whole thing was chipped off. It was really a pathetic sight. Then came her turn. Instead of watching her as I did the others, I concentrated on her purse and that compact. In my imagination, I brought before my mind's eye many shades of lipstick. I discarded one after the other and found the most lovely red, which I thought would be perfect for her. In my imagination, I imagined it there, and instantly before my view, it was there as an objective fact. I knew intuitively that she needed $54. I had a vision of how she lived and where she lived. She could have used several hundred, but she actually needed $54. So in my imagination, I said, why not be generous and give her a $1,000 bill? So I imagined a crisp $1,000 bill, and instantly it is in her purse. I did not see her performance. She returned and took her chair. She opened the purse, and the thrill when she saw the $1,000 bill, but even greater when she opened the compact and found the lipstick. For here was a woman who had been far too long without a lipstick. And then I deliberately vanished that she may not see the benefactor. I can tell him, I've told him for the last few months. Whether I've persuaded him or not, I do not know. He has already been born from above. When the angel of the Lord stood before him and tried to persuade him that he was born, he denied it. He was taking the literal fact of this birth as against the spiritual birth. He is exercising a power he will exercise in the not distant future. He's young, just turned 40. Well, what is 40 against 70? So in the not distant future, he will be exercising this power in an entirely new age, a new age altogether. But what thrilled me with his vision was his compassion, his mercy, his love. He didn't do it so that he may be seen by the one who received it. He wanted to be unknown. That's how God gives us his great gift. God gives us himself and remains unseen in the giving. So here, the part he'll be playing in that heavenly body, which is the Lord Jesus Christ, is the most glorious thing to imagine. Now we come down to the practical side of this teaching. Until we are born from above, we are in the world of Caesar. And although we do not know we are in a world of death, let me tell you, you can apply it in this manner. You are the operant power. You are making everything alive in your world. Were it not for you, everything would be dead.